What happens when an unstoppable force meets a nation waiting to be reborn? This is the story of Jonah Lomu in South Africa, the storm that shook not only a game, but a country's soul. If you don't want to miss the rest of this epic saga, hit subscribe now and join us on this journey through rugby's most powerful legend. The journey south, the airplane hummed with the monotone rhythm of the engines, but Jonah couldn't sleep. He sat by the window, staring into the endless night sky, where stars scattered like shards of light over the dark void. Beneath them, the African continent stretched vast, mysterious, and heavy with history. South Africa, a land whose soil still carried the fresh scars of apartheid. A nation trying to stitch itself back together with fragile threads of hope, unity, and rugby. The World Cup was not just a tournament here, it was redemption, a chance to heal. And Jonah Lomu, barely in his 20s, was about to step into a story larger than himself. Inside his chest, the same war raged, the thunder of a giant's heart, the whisper of a boy's doubt. His kidney disease remained a secret shadow few knew. None in this plane suspected that the man everyone called unstoppable was, in truth, fragile as glass. His teammate leaned over and whispered, "You ready to make history, Jonah?" Jonah turned, a half smile, eyes unreadable. "History will write itself," he replied. "A land divided, a nation waiting, Johannesburg." The streets buzzed with tension and celebration alike. Flags waved from windows, vendors shouted on corners. Children with painted cheeks chased each other through the dust, rugby balls clutched in small hands. Yet beneath the noise, there was an undercurrent, a nation still holding its breath. For many, this tournament was more than sport. It was the proof that black and white could stand together, that South Africa could be whole again. And when whispers of Jonah Lomu began to echo through townships and city squares alike, people didn't just speak of a rugby player. They spoke of a force of nature, a man whose presence could bend the destiny of matches and men alike. The storm breaks, the semi-final, South Africa versus New Zealand. The stadium roared with an intensity unlike anything Jonah had felt before. The air itself seemed charged, trembling with expectation. The haka thundered across the grass. Jonah's eyes locked on the Springbok players, their faces carved with determination, their bodies coiled with purpose. This was not just rugby for them, it was survival, it was national identity. When the whistle blew, chaos erupted. Jonah received the ball early, the crowd rose as one. He ran, legs pounding, each stride tearing up chunks of turf. Green jerseys swarmed him. One clung to his waist, another dug for his legs. Jonah surged forward, dragging them like anchors, his body a locomotive refusing to stop. The stadium gasped for a heartbeat. It felt like he would break through, as he had done countless times before. But South Africa was different. Their tackles came heavier, sharper, fueled by something beyond tactics, fueled by a nation's desperate will. Jonah went down, the ground shook beneath him. And in that fall, Jonah understood this would not be like any other game. Inside the eye of the storm, every time Jonah touched the ball, the field tilted. The Springboks threw themselves at him, 3, 4 at a time, desperate to stop the giant. Jonah rose, bruised, mud streaking across his arms, sweat pouring down his brow. His lungs burned, his heart hammered, and deep inside, the boy whispered again, "What if this is where you finally break?" But with every whisper of doubt, came the roar of the crowd. Tens of thousands screamed his name, not just Kiwis, but South Africans too, caught between awe and fear. He pushed forward, time and again. He did not dominate as before. But even when brought down, his presence bent the game around him. Every run a tremor shaking both teams. The clash with destiny, the match tightened into a deadlock. South Africa played with unbreakable discipline. The All Blacks fought with fire, but the Springboks absorbed everything. Each tackle, each scrum, each lineout felt like hammer on stone. Jonah felt his body slowing. The fatigue was more than physical. It was the hidden sickness gnawing at his strength, the one he refused to confess. Yet he pressed on, because giants are not allowed to fall, not in front of the world. And then came the moment. The ball found Jonah near the sideline, space opened. The giant charged, the field tilting once more. Gasps filled the stadium as he brushed past one defender, then another. It was happening again, the unstoppable Lomu run. But just before the line, a green jersey crashed into him with the weight of a nation. Jonah fell, the ball slipped free. The stadium erupted, not in silence, but in thunderous, uncontainable sound. South Africa had held the line. The aftermath, when the final whistle blew, the Springboks had triumphed. The nation roared in victory, tears streaming, strangers embracing strangers. It was not just a win, it was rebirth. Jonah walked off the field slowly, head bowed, sweat dripping. The giant had not conquered this day. Yet in the stands, in the hearts of millions watching around the world, something deeper was felt. They had seen a force of nature meet a wall of destiny. They had witnessed not just rugby, but the collision of history, pain, hope, and redemption. And even in defeat, Jonah Lomu's legend grew larger. Because sometimes the storm is not remembered for what it destroys, but for what it reveals. The unfinished story, Jonah sat alone after the match, the stadium empty now, the echo of cheers still lingering like ghosts. He stared at his hands, mud-caked, trembling slightly. He thought of the boy inside him, and for the first time, he wondered aloud, am I chasing victory or running from myself? No answer came, only the silent hum of floodlights above. Jonah rose, the story wasn't over. The giant had fallen, but the legend had only begun to rise. To be continued.